Hello, I'm Tom Butler, Production Coordinator here at Paducah 2 Television at West Kentucky Community and Technical College. 2009 marks the 30th anniversary of public access television here in Paducah. And in celebration of that year-long event, we're digging into the archives and bringing you some of the best programming from the past 30 years. Coming up, you're going to see a really interesting program on Whitehaven. This was shot as the renovations were being talked about, and so you'll see some video of Whitehaven before those renovations were even done. Following that program, really great program, the Tour of the Paducah Sun with the late Jack Paxton. It goes in and shows you the details of how the paper was made many years ago. And after the Tour of the Paducah Sun, another of our original dramas that we produced here at the college called Nikola Tesla. We think it's a great lineup for you to watch, so stay tuned and watch the best of Paducah 2 Television.
Restoration of Whitehaven is being brought to you by a special grant from the Kentucky Humanities Council. And we have a whole committee of people here today to talk about the restoration project of Whitehaven. And we're providing this history and background and the architectural plans of the restoration project to involve you, the viewer, to ask questions. Anything that may be rolling around in your mind concerning the structure, the restoration project that's going on in Whitehaven. Tonight is your opportunity to give us a call here at Paducah 2, and we have secretaries waiting to jot down your messages, and as soon as we've seen the program dealing with the history and the restoration plans, well, then our committee will be here to respond directly to you and any questions that you might have concerning this project. And it's a way of involving the community at the outset with the project that's going to be going on at the corner of Lone Oak Road and I-24 for the next 10, 12 months perhaps. And so I'm very excited about the project, and I hope that you have pen in hand, and we'll take down the number 443-0266 and give us a call sometime within the next half hour. And I hope that you people on the panel will enjoy seeing what Bob Johnson has put together on this historical perspective of Whitehaven. And so to start our program off, if those of you at home are ready, let's look at the tape of the restoration project of Whitehaven. And while we're waiting, give us a call here at Paducah 2, 443-0266.
Above Interstate 24 in Paducah stands Whitehaven, now only a pile of brick and plaster. It is a landmark cherished by the people of Western Kentucky, a grand mansion once doomed because of neglect. It is now destined to be saved for a new and exciting future.
Well, the uniqueness of it is that there is virtually no other tourist information and welcome center of this nature anywhere in the South. It is so very special from that standpoint. This beautiful antebellum home, there is throughout the nation a craving for a restoration, a craving for a preservation, an appreciation of that which we had in the past, the values, the lifestyles, and I think that we are capitalizing on that and will be benefiting by that nostalgia craze, if you will, that is permeating our society today. And I think that it will attract people for that reason, and the beauty. Most tourist information and welcome centers are merely cracker box type installations set on the side of the road, and an individual goes in and they can get information, they can avail themselves of the facilities there, but they're all, while they're clean, they're sterile, they're well kept, they're well run in many, many places, they're pretty much a stereotype. They're pretty much the same sort of thing. And there is also a realization nowadays that the traveler, many travelers do not, in fact, use information centers to the extent that they formerly did, but simply because if they get their information in advance and they know where they're going, and they don't stop at these attractions, these places that are intended to be attractions that are just pretty much standard and uniform. But now you take an installation, preservation or restoration effort like that of the Whitehaven, and it is going to be very different, very special. And there are really only a few of these antebellum homes left throughout the entire nation, and we have one of them right there in Paducah, 150 feet from I-24, and it's a natural, and it's going to attract people that the usual, the average, the conventional type tourist welcome center does not attract.
The main brick portion of the house was built in the 1860s by Edward Anderson. At that time, it was a rather plain two-story brick farmhouse. After Anderson's death in 1872, the land was divided among his children, and the tract with the house on it went to Mary E. Anderson. The house remained in the Anderson family until 1903, when it was sold to Ed L. Atkins, a cashier at the American-German Bank. Mr. Atkins commissioned his good friend, A.L. Lassiter, to do a complete remodeling of the house. Mr. Lassiter was a Paducah architect who designed such buildings as the Carnegie Library, the Senate Hotel, and the Fisher Mansion. This was a period when the classical revival architecture was very popular, and it was common practice to take a Victorian house and dress it up with columns and classic details. Lassiter added the Corinthian columned front porch, the elaborate interior ceiling plasterwork, and the classically detailed front doorway. Mr. Atkins named his new home Whitehaven. In 1907, the house was purchased by James P. Smith, who was then mayor of Paducah. The house was renamed Bide-A-Wee, Scotch for come rest a while.
Mrs. Smith, my mother-in-law, she was the dearest person. She told me that one day Mr. Smith came home and he said, you know, he called her Nell. You know, Nell, I'm tired of living downtown. This was down in the old Smith home where on the square which the city hall now sits. And he said, I am so tired of all these children and all these flies, and I am moving to the country, and I think I found the place. And that's why he took them there. I love talking about Mrs. Smith. She was adorable. Mrs. Smith was one of the most generous people I think I've ever known in my life. She treated me, and Mr. Smith also, they treated me just like I was their very own daughter, really, from the minute I entered their home as Richard's wife. And she was just one of those people that had to be doing for other people all the time. That's her happiness, you know. Her mother came from Scotland, and she married Mrs. Smith's father, who was an Illinoisan, and he served as the Secretary of State on the cabinet of President Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, really?
So you see, living in Golconda, this was her home, she had a very wonderful life. She had a wonderful life. She really did. Beautiful entertainment and social affairs, and she truly knew how to entertain. She was raised with this and had beautiful parties at Bide-A-Wee.
The Smiths hired Marshall Fields of Chicago to do the interior decorating of the house. Silk wallpaper, heavy damask draperies were added to the interior. Several bedrooms were added to the rear of the house for the Smiths' 6 children. A playroom with beautiful oriental stenciling was added on the 3rd floor, and a carport was added to the side of the house. Mrs. Smith and her daughter, Elizabeth Smith Shelton, were enthusiastic gardeners. Extensive formal gardens were laid out around the house, and the Smiths had beautiful garden parties here. Elizabeth Smith Shelton was the last member of the Smith family to live in the house. She left in 1968 when the family believed that the house would be torn down due to the construction of Interstate 24. Although the house was not torn down, it was left empty and a great deal of vandalism took place. All of the original stained glass was removed or stolen, Mirrors were destroyed, and most of the windows and doors were broken. Recently, concern about the future of the house prompted local citizens to take an active interest in saving Whitehaven. In 1981, the Smith family sold the house and property to Paducah Community College. Then, money became available for the construction of a tourist welcome center for Kentucky. And most important, Secretary of Transportation Frank Metz and Governor John Y. Brown gave their support to restore the Smith Mansion for the Tourist Welcome Center. These three events reversed the deterioration, and restoration of Whitehaven into a tourist center will be completed next June. Architect Pat Kerr and contractor Bill Black have taken a more than professional interest in Whitehaven, taking frequent trips to the mansion with preservation planner Dick Holland.
Is that some of the handmade brick?
I think it is. I started to say it looks like an interior brick because it's orange, but it seems to have some paint there.
You know, you had mentioned once before the difference in color of mortar between that and what you say, like fine downtown. It's a yellow mortar. Is there any significance to that, do you think?
I would surmise that this sand for this mortar came from the creek right down on the other side of this house. Would have made sense.
Yeah.
And that downtown, where our lime mortar tends to be very white in the buildings, like in the area of your office on 2nd Street, I would imagine that the sand for that mortar came from the river.
Came from the river. Were all of the bricks, interior and exterior of this building, handmade?
I would assume that the oldest original construction of the building was made of handmade bricks that were made on this site, and in fact, Dick has some evidence to that effect, don't you?
The pit's supposed to be on the boundary, the pit where they dug up the clay and made the bricks, and it was still there like in the 1940s and 50s because the Smiths had Mrs. Smith and Miss Shelton had a guard there, a rock guard. So
You haven't found that yet?
No, I think we could find the area though. That I think
Still possibly find a depression in the ground. Now there are some bricks on this one here that are obviously of a later nature that I would assume were not made on this site, and in fact may not have even been made in Paducah. But Pat, you'd be more familiar with this than I. Well, I would.
Is it a poured brick?
Yes, I would say it's a molded brick,
Right.
just the way the others are. You might tell us about it.
This is a corner off one of the interior mantles, and there is one particular mantle in there, one particular fireplace that is all hand molded brick. We think that the majority of the brick are there. They've fallen down through the floor and they're in the crawl space, and we think the majority of them are there, and that we can repair those that have been broken. If not, we do have an allowance in the contract that we have to hand make some special
Duplicate.
bricks. We can. So, but I think we can find most of them.
Now, would you say that this type brick that is in those mantles, those decorative brick, would you say that they were introduced in the early 20th century remodeling, or do you think that they were
No, I think
prior
they
to
were.
that?
I think they were with the remodel.
With the remodeling?
I don't really have any.
That would be my assumption too, but I don't have any evidence.
In fact, I think that originally, before the remodeling, you know, the structure itself was a very simple, straight up and down 2-story farmhouse. And then after the remodeling, then I think is when all of the dental work and so on was done. There's some stained glass here that the house didn't really have that much stained glass in it. It had some insert panels of stained glass that were inlaid or were the centerpieces of a larger panel that made up the 2 side lights of the front door, the 2 side lights of the upper balcony doors. And then there was a couple of places on the interior that had some stained glass. But that is a craft that has certainly come back, you know, in the last 10 years especially. And I think we can just identically reproduce what was there. We got enough pieces to know the thickness, the bevel, the type of lead, the width of the the width of the glazing bead, and we've got enough detail and enough suppliers that we should be able to do it exactly like it was.
Now, the stained glass above the front doorway read Paducah, and then I believe the stained glass on the stairway landing read Whitehaven. I think there's a date on it. I think it read 1903.
Right.
So that was probably when that was added. Because probably originally that stairway landing was a window that looked out over the yard, and then when they added some of the back rooms, they just put bevel glass or mirrors into it to cover it up.
Yeah, there was a variety of glazing materials in there. We had beveled glass, we had stained glass, we had mirrors, beveled mirrors, just a variety of glazing materials. These, we don't know where they were. This pattern and color and so forth, we don't know where they were. From the photographs, we can come pretty close to the color. I'm not sure of the texture.
I was saying that the Smiths they had a family dining room in the room behind the stairway, and the chandelier in it was a Tiffany light with multicolored glass. And the light would shine up through the chandelier, through the bevel glass of the stairway landing, and create light patterns all over the room.
That was interesting.
It was beautiful.
Dick, I remember the rather green stained glass that was in the stair landing. The stained glass with lead came had the date 1903 in it. And someone had once told me it was from the World's Fair. Is that
I never heard that.
documented or? Okay,
I hadn't heard that either.
Okay, it may be a myth, but I do know that many things were used. In the Riverlore Mansion in Cairo, they had a door, a leaded glass bevel door that was from the World's Fair in 1903.
Kimmel Place has furniture that they brought back from some World's Fair. This intricate carved Chinese furniture that they got.
Speaking of furniture, Dick, isn't there some evidence that there are some furnishings here and there and around that may be put back originally?
Well, everybody's heard about the piano up on the third floor, a very large square piano. Now we believe that the Smiths added the little children's playroom on the third floor later. And so the story I've always heard, they had to put the piano in first and then build the room over on the windows or something. And then when the Smiths moved out, they left it there, and then it was taken out and sold to a lady in New Orleans who had it completely redone. And when she heard about the restoration effort, she offered to donate it back as a gift.
Ooh,
so and one of the rooms we'll be restoring as a like a museum room is the old music room. So it'll be fit perfectly there.
We're basically on the interiors putting back the form of the space, the detail, and we'll end up with it being white. From that point on, I think there'll probably be some committees, is what I'm told. There'll probably be some committees who will come in to do what we would term interior decorating. If there are any area rugs, carpeting, drapes, that sort of thing, I think it'll be done by committee, which is should be interesting.
And at that time, it would be very appropriate for citizens who wanted to donate artifacts or furniture or pieces from this from Whitehaven to do so.
Yes.
Well,
to be incorporated in that interior design.
The benches that were in the front, they had two benches built into the wall in the front hallway were taken out, and the guy who has those wants to give them back too.
Yeah.
And Jerry Smith was telling me that she remembers how they were covered, and that's where she and Mrs. Smith would sit in the morning waiting for Mr. Smith to come down to go to work. Mrs. Smith would say goodbye, and Jerry would often ride with them downtown. So we have some good documentation.
Speaking of the interior, let's go ahead and take a look. You want to? Great.
Your autographs at Mrs. Sober.
This is one of the most ornate areas of the whole house, this center section, and the one that's in worse shape, as you can see from the stairwell. Those are the windows you were talking about where the chandelier was behind.
Yeah, right behind
Tiffany
it.
picture was behind it.
I also suppose on that's where it read Whitehaven on it. I can't believe. And I guess they use like some bevel glass, some stained glass, but the picture we have shows some mirror too, because it reflects like the upstairs.
I think it's used where the boards are. I think that's where they use the mirror, because that's where the structure crosses the,
Okay.
like spandrel.
Tied to structure, like,
We use spandrel glass now, they use mirror.
Well, we have a picture taken by A.L. Laster in 1903 after the remodeling, standing like at the front door, shooting this way. And the furnishings, we had a hall tree and a potted plant and a couch and a easel with a photograph there. And it wasn't real fancy, but that's the way they had it.
But this, now this stairway, would you attribute to the A.L. Lassiter remodeling design?
Yeah, the picture shows it.
Do you have any idea what the 1860 design was?
No,
Of the stairway?
Not really. Probably anything that gives a clue.
Probably would have just run,
It may very well have been the same shape, function, just not as ornate. You know, very straightforward. The spindles, the balustrades off the stairwell, those are off-the-shelf available items right now, so they're not hard to replace at all.
What about the handrail? I've noticed this ridge in the top of it. I've seen it before in old places. Would they have to be completely redo?
Yeah, we'll have to redo that.
That was
However,
fairly recently lost, too.
Right. We'll probably cut that off, say, just above where it's damaged here, and keep this part.
Yeah.
And then just come on down. The hard thing will be to get the color and the finish back.
Yeah.
But
these
they look
steps
like
are in
they're
pretty
really
good shape.
Yeah. In fact, we're reusing all of the treads. We're going to take them off and replane them.
Yeah.
And put them back again.
The Smith had an oriental carpet running up it, and a huge grandfather's clock on the landing.
Was that in one of those photographs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing
And
that.
I think sort of like
This, the framing wood that they used in there was probably from a crate.
Nobody's read
Not
that
unreasonable.
for 80 years.
The blue decoration that you see is, as you can see, is added because this is the same decoration and no color on it at all. I think this was added by the temporary residents not too long ago.
What about the attic stenciling? When do you think that was done?
I don't know, Dick, you have some idea on that?
Well, if the Smiths added the family room, I would have said they did it, but I mean, that might have been when Marshall
In the
Phillips.
1903 or 04 picture in the A.L. Lassiter scrapbook, I noted that the gable windows were not there.
Right.
That
And
are
then
now
in the
there.
postcard-
And also in the
The
postcard.
1911 postcard, you can't see the gable windows. So
Right.
that's
Nor can you see the dormers, which doesn't mean for certain the dormers weren't there, but it is
I
a
don't much think
perspective
they
that
were.
looks as though.
Well,
you
the
can
end
see it.
windows on, was that the 1903 photograph? The end windows in the attic space weren't there either.
So, the Smiths had 6 kids, and I can see why they would want to,
More
have a
space,
space
more
for
space,
them
yeah.
up there. So that's, I think that's when they would have had it.
It really might not be a very good idea to go upstairs. We can go up there later on. There's some really bad places in the floor up there.
Okay.
And we'll end up stepping off of that thing.
Pat, most of this damage is from what?
Exposure to the weather, no heat in it, freezing and thawing. We came out here.
Primarily.
Water. We came out here the first frost of last year when we first started documenting this thing in the fall. And of course it was pitch black and we had a flashlight and all of the walls glistened because they had the moisture on them and the frost, and it was really eerie, but it was interesting. It was neat.
Great lesson in deterioration.
Yes.
The microphysics of deterioration with water.
Well, I had mentioned earlier that we have a section of the reconstruction called Clean Up and Dry Out. And we're going to force heat in this thing regardless of, we know it's going to be in the summertime when we start, but we're going to force heat in this thing and move a lot of air for, say, a couple of weeks to at least get the surface of things dried up.
Right.
And so we...
Yeah.
The dining room, I think it's pretty common practice that the dining room in a house was often the most elaborate.
Mhm.
The decorations and things.
We're now standing in the dining room.
This was,
Right. What about this ceiling decoration here, Pat? I call them vines.
Right. I'm not sure what the terminology is, but those castings are, again, available off the shelf as a casting. And as you can see in this area, we've got some floor joists to replace. So what we're going to have to do is take this ceiling and just cut it right straight across and take all that down. Now, whatever we can reuse and glue back together, we will. What we can't, of course, all of the cornice work and so on, we can keep that. All the molding, I mean, ground molding, we can keep that. And the rest of them will have to veneer plaster and apply some new molding probably.
Again, using the principle of using original materials
Save as much
wherever
as we can,
possible,
right.
and then filling in.
What they do is, for example, all these pieces you see on the floor, and we have called in our cleanup and dry out phase that the contractor cannot throw away anything until it's been gone through and salvage what we can. But they can take an epoxy and put that right back up again, up onto the new ceiling. Some of this was, screw applied. That's
Interesting.
amazing. I mean, how they did that, really.
Some of it, what we can't reuse, I'd like to see kept and then used maybe in an exhibit on the house and, little pieces, artifacts.
Something that you don't really see now is the wood fiber plaster.
Yeah, that's wood fiber. Interesting. Here's a piece actually with the screw
Still on the
going through
lab.
the plaster, still on the wood lab. Pat, what about the crown mold in this room, this plaster?
That, I don't think we have to have any new in here at all, assuming that when we put this new part of the ceiling in,
It doesn't destroy.
that's right. We've got a section of the wall over there, as you can see, that's really dropped down that we're having to replace, but I think we can take the molding down first and then be able to put it back up
Patch
again. If we can't, we can always come back and get us a piece and cast it.
Dick, you were mentioning the stenciling before. Do we have an example of that right under the crown mold on this wall?
That's a really good example. That molding above the door, I call Greek key molding.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, because I think a Greek key has like a square end on it. That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about. And it's really an Italianate building feature. And there's just a possibility it might date back to the 1860 house. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but there's a chance that
There are
because it's not
other
class.
examples in Paducah, aren't there?
Oh yeah, a lot of that.
Similar style.
Well, houses built between like 1860 and 1880 would have had it, just like that. So, and it's not there. I mean, there's the house. The rest of the house is classical revival, and there is classical revival molding, but this isn't. So, like the molding in the music room is more classical than this is.
They even had pocket doors then, you notice that?
I was just.
We're taking those down and redoing those.
And they'll still operate as pocket doors.
We hope. Yeah, we think they will.
Somebody got the phone off.
That's in Lower Town in the historic
Now,
zone.
they've been closed up.
Pocket
and,
doors are a standard item that has to be reworked.
That's right. Even the brand new ones don't work.
This is the living room? And did it have a classical column in it?
Well, the front column did. Did you put this one in here, Bill?
Yeah,
I thought
Dick
you
and
did.
I believe, Dick, it was you and I. It was out front and fallen down, and we thought that the wood basically was in pretty good shape.
We'll try to salvage
Right,
that.
and that it shouldn't lie out on the ground all winter, so we put it in here.
With all the new glues and wood fillers and so on, I think that there's probably a good chance we can put those back together and band them.
That, again, would fit with your principle of original materials wherever possible.
Wherever we can.
The other advantage of that is that it would still have the texture that is identical to the other columns. You
That's
wouldn't
right.
have an obviously new
That's
column
right.
sticking in there.
The columns themselves would be very easy to replace. I think we talked about that when we were outside, but they'd be very easy to replace as off-the-shelf items, including the decorative capital. But as you said, the texture will be different, and if we can, we're going to glue them all back together.
Now, in something like this, where you have a good bit of scaly paint, in preservation, it's not your intention to make it look new, is it?
No. First of all, it's almost an impossibility to do, and in preservation work that's perfectly legitimate, you know, to leave the things that you can't get off, that you would damage the surface of the, whatever it is you're taking it off of, and just leave it there and then paint over it again. So we'll have a lot of that.
Yeah, where you have paint that has a sound bond to the wood or to the brick, you would not work and work and work to scrape that off.
No.
For fear of damaging your
That's right.
basic material.
In fact, like the exterior brick, for example, there's some paint on those brick that the only way I think you'd ever get them off would be, say, to sandblast it, or a real stiff wire brush. Well, we're not going to let them use that for fear of damaging the brick. So we'll just leave that on paint over.
Sandblasting with cardinal sin of restoration.
There's stencilling at the bottom of the wall, too.
Oh, yeah.
First people to see this stencilling for 80 years.
That's our program outlining the history and the present condition of the structure of Whitehaven. And I'd like to, at this time, introduce some of the guests that we have with us in the studio to respond to some of your questions. And remind you that the number is 443-0266. And we have people standing by to take down your questions, and you can participate in this part of the television program. To my left is Dick Holland, who is Preservation Director for Growth Incorporated. And next to him is Bill Black, who is a local contractor, and Pat Kerr, who is the architect dealing with the Whitehaven project. Thank you all for being with us. I'd like to come back in a minute and find out why you take more than a professional interest in this project. You were almost like 3 kids on a scavenger hunt watching you go through the old building. I enjoyed that immensely. And to my right is a good friend of mine, Golda Beeman, who is with the William S. Clark Museum, and another friend of mine here at PCC, a professor of history and economics, John Robertson, and Michael Watts, director of the Paducah Art Guild. Michael, I'm glad that you could be with us this evening and add some insights to what Whitehaven is going to be and what it's going to mean to Paducah. Thank you very much. Why is this restoration project attracting so much attention? What makes it unique? I don't know exactly where to start. Let's start with Dick. What is the element or the thing about restoring this house that is attracting so much attention, and do you think the attention will continue to grow?
Yeah, I think it's because of all the buildings in this part of the area. It's the house people love the most. I mean, if you ask anybody what their favorite building is, they'd probably say the Smith House. And I think it's because it's the beauty of it. I mean, it's something that really appeals to people. It's very romantic and reminds them of the past and of the South. It's just everybody's favorite building.
Well, thank you. I'd like to find out from John, since you're always advising us and giving us suggestions on to what you thought of our program dealing with the history and the present condition and sort of getting this project off the ground.
It seems to me we have to recognize that one thing that history is, it's continuity with the past. History is the cutting edge between the past, the present, and the future. Man, you know, that's about the only thing that really separates us from animals, is having a historic past. And the fact that we can not only have one, but participate in it and live in historic terms. I think this is what's unique about this. Here you have a project that is being used for a useful function that also preserves the historical interest in it.
Let me go through some of the questions, and again remind the viewers at home that you can call in. Call 443-0266. We'll jot down your questions and present them to our panelists. If you wanted to direct them to any particular person on the panel, just do so, and we'll be glad to. Let's see, Bill, I'll direct this one at you because I think in the tape you mentioned this. Teresa Underwood called in and said there used to be a stained glass window on the landing with the number 1903 on it, and she was wanting to know what the number meant. After you talked about it the other day out at the site, have you ever discovered what it was, the significance of that number?
No, I have not. I was surmising at that time that it might be related to the the World's Fair, which took place in 1903. However, the remodeling of Whitehaven also took place in 1903. So that is pure speculation on my part.
I see.
That window, by the way, is still in existence in a restaurant in Grand Rivers, I think. And
now, is this the panel that
this,
went at the landing of the stairway? Is that the one you're
yes,
talking about?
that's my understanding. I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard the owner mention that she has it and that she purchased it.
Well, how much?
In this interim period when the mansion was declining and being vandalized. So probably it was a good fortune for that particular piece of craftsmanship.
How much of the original decor or original contents of the building do you think you'll be able to find and replace? And do you think you'll be able to replace that window?
That would be ideal if that could take place. Dick probably is more in touch with people who are beginning to notify him of artifacts that they have that they're willing to contribute. And in fact, he just acquired one yesterday. Very interesting.
We got the mantle back from the music room, and it was probably the nicest mantle in the house. It had scroll work at the very top, and across it read Whitehaven. And a man found it in Atlanta and brought it back, and we have it back now for the mansion. And I think what will happen is that if we can't get the original pieces back, then they'll be duplicated. New material will be duplicated, look like the original. But it's always much better to have the original. You know, that gives it just a more authentic feeling.
As I sat there and watched the tape, I just feel like that you're taking on an awesome project to take the structure in the condition that it is and begin trying to restore it to its previous glory and to be a functional building in today's society. Pat, how do you begin? You were saying that you were going to take some time to dry it out. I thought that was interesting. What kinds of things do you have to do in order to preserve this building?
Dick, you could have saved me a lot of detailing in the office, a lot of detailing if he'd have found some of these pieces earlier. We've sort of had to reconstruct them from photographs and from measurements on site. But, you know, I would anticipate that if you're talking about decor, you're talking about structural detailing, that we'll end up with about 80% of the original structure there and decor, not interior decorator items such as drapes and those sorts of things, but certainly the crown molding and baseboards, door trim, that sort of thing. I think we'll end up with a good percentage of it back again.
We were talking earlier before the show, this question from Paula Rainier, will you allow archaeological excavations on the property? If so, when? Wasn't there some news, Bill, on that this evening?
There is. Under the direction of Mr. Kit Wessler, staff archaeologist at Murray State University, a professional archaeologist, amateur archaeologists, and also members of the public who would be interested in volunteering to make a contribution of work toward Whitehaven. We'll have an opportunity to work under his direction in excavations that will be done on the site at carefully planned positions around the structure in investigating the history of this as revealed through the discipline of archaeology. It's a relatively new perception, at least to the general public in archaeology, in that it's not dealing with prehistoric man, but in this case, historic man, applying the skills that have been well developed in studying prehistoric man.
When will that get underway?
I don't know exactly when it will get underway, but it will take about a month and really needs to be accomplished before the contractors arrive on the site for the restoration work. So you might work back from then. I would say certainly within a month they would probably be starting.
This is, if I may interrupt something on this. We are fairly young as a nation, and so many other countries have done a lot of archaeological work on relic structures to rebuild the past. by using a physical site like this. And I think there's been some interesting work done in Nashville where people began to be aware of their neighborhood. That where did this house come from? What was the significance? And more of this is needed. Studies like Rick's did in England, for example. This might be a start of a movement to where we can tie some of our past to the actual existing structures.
Golda, do you know whether or not the finished project will have like a museum in it? Have you heard any discussions as to what will be housed in the structure?
Bob, I have heard that there are some plans for a museum, and Dick can help me out here with the other planning that we will have. I believe they want to restore several of the rooms just as they were when the Smiths lived there. Also, where I think the garden clubs may be able to help would be in the garden, in the gardens, and trying to get them back as they were or as near as they were. And I would hope that Jerry Smith would head that committee because she lived there for so long, and she would know, and perhaps the Council of Garden Clubs would take that part of it. For the museum, I think that it would be interesting perhaps to have maybe Jackson purchase many things in one of the rooms. And Dick, why don't you help me out here as to some of the discussions that you have had with different people?
Well, probably the two of the downstairs rooms will be fixed up as house museum rooms, with furniture of the period to show how they were decorated. But the other rooms will be fairly functional, probably with uses for the tourist center.
Well, I have a question here. What other than the tourist center will be housed in Whitehaven? For example, will there be an area for community functions?
Nothing's definite yet, but that's there's a lot of potential use for the upstairs bedrooms, meeting rooms, or.
Part of the problem with determining what those spaces are going to be used for is the Federal Highway Administration, certainly because an awful lot of the money is theirs that's going into it, have certain requirements that spaces can be used for. For example, they cannot sell in a tourist center. So unless there are some waivers at some later dates, the plans are to do a lot of display, such as Kentucky handicraft items, the things that Bill was talking about from the archaeologist discoveries. There would be a niche there for displaying those things that they found on the site. I would guess that some of the upper rooms would also be used for some meeting spaces, public meeting spaces. But there are some limitations placed on that by the Federal Highway people, and that's why everybody doesn't seem to know what's going to go in there, and we're not real sure yet either. But
so in a large degree, final decisions haven't been made.
As to the use of the individual spaces, that's true, with the exception of the fairly newly constructed area, or the area that is most renovated in the rear part of it, that will certainly have the restroom facilities, lobby type area, drinking fountains, pay telephones, and so on. That will be in the back section of it.
I'd like to see an area set aside, just on how the house was restored, with before and after pictures, and let people appreciate the amazing task.
That with television too.
If I might interrupt, I'd like to say that with as much space as the house is going to have when it is completed, but I certainly would hope that there would be some way for displays of artifacts and different things for this area. It's just, it would add, I think, to it being a tourist center for people to stop and want to see it.
Michael, do you think that the Art Guild will be involved in any way in the interior design committee structure and the displays that are put in there?
I don't know if they will be. I don't know if they'd like to be, put it that way. It's interesting that Gold's bringing this up about the displays. I think that's partly what Whitehaven can offer that the traditional tourist center can't offer. And the other important thing to me is that people can see a historic structure like Whitehaven being used in the museum sense, which is what most people think of a historic structure's use being, but also in a real active day-to-day, used facility. that it's not just something where you go and see things and you talk and whisper and you walk very softly and all that, that you really can use these structures.
Right.
Older structures can be readapted to suit modern functions and still maintain the historic character and the aesthetic beauty that they have inherent and give us that tie to the past that John was talking about earlier. I think that's really a key to why this whole thing should work.
I have another question here. Will you restore any of the other buildings on the grounds behind the main structure? Pat, Bill, who wants to respond to that?
As an architect, I won't. The plans are now that the ramping, parking area, and all of the supporting facilities, there will be some picnic areas and some seating areas, pretty much takes up the rest of the site.
How much space is there?
Right at 10 acres, I think. There has been some conversations related to the only building that you can actually see on the site from I-24, which is a one-story structure, as to perhaps that might be saved, but if not, it will be dismantled carefully and the bricks reused in areas of the structure itself where we don't have enough brick and we need to match it in texture.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But the old well house will be restored. That's on the side of it. And that'll be
Under a gazebo.
Yeah,
Right.
gazebo-like area.
A caller just called in and said you mentioned a large garden area with extensive landscaping. Will extensive landscaping take place when you restore the structure? And also, will there be offices for the tourist center, such as downtown, the Tourist Commission? Will those offices perhaps be housed in the center?
There's office space for that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they will or not, I don't know. Landscaping-wise,
What about the garden?
Landscaping-wise, it is not a part of the contract, and as Golda mentioned, we would hope that that is a community involvement thing that we would really ask for. There's very little left out there now in the way of ornamentals and so on.
That leads to something that you mentioned earlier on the tape about the committees.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that too. How will they be formed?
Yeah, that's my question.
Who will
are the
appoint them?
committees and where do they come from? What are they going to do?
I don't have the vaguest notion.
Not the answer I wanted to hear.
I'm sort of mimicking some of the things that I've been told. How they'll be formed, who'll be on them, who's in charge of them, I'm not really too sure. Up to this point, had very little input, to the function of the structure or any directions other than put it back like it was. And
Dick, do you have any ideas of how much involved the local community will be in working with the restoration project?
I think it'll be left to Paducah, people of Paducah, McCracken County, and the area to furnish the house. I think basically they'll restore the house, and then they'll be left up to us to do the
organize ourselves, right?
And like the house has the extensive stenciling in it, that dates back to about 1903, and there could certainly be a community project to restore the stenciling, to find a way to bring that back after the restoration.
Dick, you mentioned just the other day when we were out there, need to document those stenciling designs.
Every room has a different type of stencil, used.
Is it covered over now in places? I just remember seeing bits
Yeah,
and
most of
pieces.
it's covered over with wallpaper, but as the house is deteriorated, the wallpaper's peeled off so you can see it. So there's and then there's some areas where there's 2 layers of stenciling. There's the original stenciling, then there's a later level. So it's fascinating.
Michael, what's the technique of stenciling or the reason for doing it? Do you know?
It is a pretty standard practice around the turn of the century for decoration. I don't know if it was used because it was cheaper than wallpaper, just an additional decoration, but it's the same technique that any school child learns. Or if you had one of the rulers with the alphabet down the middle, it's simply usually a paper stencil, I think, was used.
You just put it up there and
you
trace
just
it
put
on.
up and you could paint over it, paint through it.
That's all we'd have to do is to reproduce the pattern
Yeah.
and
find the proper paints.
Now, as I understand that, there is nothing in the contract for providing for recording these patterns.
That's correct.
So this would be a very appropriate project for an interested citizen to volunteer for. Someone who has...
Time's running short to document that, by the way.
That's right, because once the construction starts, it will be very difficult to justify any waste of time. And
Here will go to
so
England
right now,
to do rubbings of various monuments and that sort of thing. Looked like somebody could take the time to copy a stencil.
that would be a volunteer who is needed immediately.
Well, since those stencils were commercially produced, aren't there pattern books that you could maybe just thumb through and find one?
There may perhaps be, but we would need documentation as to what we had here. In other words, photographic evidence.
But on all, we've seen a lot of pictures A.L. Astor took of buildings he designed, and he used stenciling throughout them. So I'm sure he's the one that had it put up. And then probably when the Smiths had the house redone by Marshall Fields, they covered it with the wallpaper.
Have you contacted Marshall Fields?
No, would be a good source though.
When I was working in that museum in Montana, they had done the interior decoration, and they don't have all the records, but if with the photographs you've got, and if you could send copies to them, they know what they had available then. They might be able to really help a lot with the period restoration for those rooms you're talking about.
Bob, I'd like to bring up a point. We've been talking about public involvement and the archaeological dig and so forth. I would like to ask people to stay away from the structure. We've tried to get the Department of Transportation to, there's still souvenir hunters, some vandalism still being done. I think the more publicity the thing gets, the more people it brings out. And I live in the subdivision there by Whitehaven, and I've run several people out. And I've also asked the Paducah Police Department to look after it, and they've done a very good job. I see them out there all the time. But until construction can actually start, it's really not safe on the interior, especially.
I noticed that you were reluctant to go upstairs.
That's right. So I'd like to relay that message to the public to please, please stay away from it for their own good and for historic sake too.
Well, and besides that, I hear the front columns are full of bees right now.
That's exactly right.
You're going to have your hands full, Bill. A question just came in from Mickey Land. I want to know the size of the house, the square feet, and the number of rooms. Pat?
The basic house, the 1860 house, is 40 by 50, 2 stories high, with some attic space. So we're talking about 4,000 square feet. It has 8 rooms plus a center hall, which really on the upper level is a room too. Now that's the original house. Dickie might be able to tell you at what dates. We haven't determined yet. There was about 3 different additions and rooms added, as well as the porte-cochere on the side. So Dickie may be
I'm
able
guessing that the kitchen part might be date to the 1860s too, because they always built their kitchens separate in case they caught on fire, the rest of the house wouldn't burn. And then I feel the later owners probably just enclosed a space between the kitchen and the house and built dining rooms and pantries in there. And then the Smiths added several bedrooms on the back, and the Smiths added the carport on the side also. So now I always hear 20 rooms in the house. That's what.
There's actually only at the very most 6,000 square feet total. It's a small structure. It's a large structure. It has very small spaces in it. It looks like it'd be larger than that on the inside. But
John, by going through the process of restoring and renovating this house, and perhaps by involving community support in the committees, how will we be benefiting future generations? I guess what's triggered this question was when you pulled the wallpaper off, Dickie, and there was the stenciling under it, then what sort of things will we perhaps find about the people who built this house?
I think we'll be learning more about ourselves as we progressed. And not only that, by having what you're doing here, the record of the progress of restoration, this can be a model for others to follow in similar projects. And this is something I think the bulldozer age may be past. We were to where, an old structure, we tore it down and we built a square box with glass. That is seemingly, we are wanting to do something with the older, to use it and to experience perhaps what they experienced at the same time, use it in our own lives. That may be what we're getting from this project.
I hope the house will serve as inspiration to people too, to show them that it's never too late to save a building. Because a year ago, everybody was saying, well, I mean, we might as well tear it down. It can't be saved.
That's right.
And we've shown it
Only,
can be.
only a month before the governor's news conference here, several of us here in this room had gotten together, hoping to persuade Paducah Community College not to demolish the building, and they were very open to not demolishing it, and in fact they were open to the idea of stabilizing it to hold off further deterioration, in hopes that perhaps within a decade some unforeseen use might occur that would allow this structure to not be lost to the community of Western Kentucky. And within a month, Governor Brown made his suggestion down here and about the Tourist Information Center, and we never expected it to be that quick.
That quick.
Part of the significance too is the fact that it was cheaper to restore the building than to build a new structure, which
This is
architecturally couldn't match it.
it's the most practical thing to do. This is what the genius of present-day historic preservation is that it doesn't put history on the shelf. It integrates it into our lives. There is a great hunger for heritage in our country right now, and those communities that make provision for protecting their physical building heritage will benefit a decade from now when that heritage is lost from other communities that make no provision to protect it. We rarely appreciate the antiques we grow up with, and we appreciate them the generation after we've lost them.
Well, this project and what we're doing downtown and in Lower Town on Jefferson Street, I think it really makes Paducah a leader in the historic preservation movement in the country. And this is probably, to me, this is probably the most exciting project going on now in the United States.
The unique point about this Whitehaven structure, though, is that all of Western Kentucky identifies with this building. I've had
It's so
people
prominent. I mean,
yes, I've had people from all over Western Kentucky ask me, why don't you do something with that building up there? And if people heard that I was interested in historic preservation, they would always say, there's a certain building up there that on Highway 45, and of course everyone knew.
well, in the last few minutes, let me get through the remaining questions. That someone called in and said, I've always heard there was a grand piano on the 3rd floor. Is it still there? No.
That's the one that
was.
That has been identified, has it not, and it's going to be restored?
It's in New Orleans now, and the lady came and spoke to us, and she's wanting to lend it back as a to be
On
placed back
permanent basis.
loan.
They have to cut a hole in the ceiling to get it up there.
Yeah, well, we're going to put it on the 1st floor.
But you have to cut a hole in the basement.
Could you tell us exactly where on the front floor?
Someone else called in and said if they're interested, how does one go about donating furnishings of the era of the 1900s or whatever? What exactly, when are you going to put it back to be representative of?
Well, I think it's up to the Department of Transportation really to set that criteria in the
How
committee.
does the structure work? How does the line of authority go on?
All right.
I mean, who sets policy?
I think that's the organization that's being left up to the community. That is not in the contract, as I understand. The contract is to restore the building, but not
I'd like to
decorating.
direct the question to Pat. You said there would not be any gifts sold, or you couldn't sell in a tourist center. Well, how do you go about? I think we have so many lovely things in Kentucky, made in Kentucky. I'm not speaking about McCracken County or Paducah. I'm speaking of Kentucky-made things. And I think we're missing a great, missing an opportunity here to let people know what we have in Kentucky. Where would you go with this?
I think Secretary Metz would love me to tell you this, and so would Commissioner Huff, but I would say that a letter to them would not hurt anything. Although they are controlled by the Federal Highway Administration,
Sure.
They're the ones who are setting the criteria. I think it probably gives some impetus to perhaps getting a waiver But I would say that'd be a good idea.
There's so much room and it needs to be utilized. And when people stop there, I think all of Kentucky is missing a great opportunity.
Well, I wanted to clarify one thing that is a big misconception now about the restoration of the house. The picture in the paper made it appear that the front porch they weren't going to retain the round portion of the front porch. But that we definitely are. The original porch will be there. It'll just be repaired. And the picture in the paper was a straight-on elevation that didn't show dimension really. Well, so the porch will look exactly the way it does now.
I hope that this is just the first in a series of programs that we're able to do on the restoration as it progresses. And Bill, Pat, Dick, I wish you good luck on your summer's work and year's work in doing this job.
They certainly have their work cut out.
Michael, thank you all for being with us this evening and responding to the viewers' questions. And those of you that called, thank you for calling. And to the Kentucky Humanities Council, thank you for making this all possible.
Hello, I'm Jack Paxton. I'm editor of the Paducah Sun. Thanks for stopping by. We'd like to try to show you how we get a newspaper out. This is my office. It hasn't changed much in a long time, even since these older fellows on the wall behind me were in this office. My father hasn't changed much since my grandfather was here, starting about 80 years ago, around the turn of the century. There is one big change. It's this little electronic beauty here. My father or grandfather, neither one would have recognized this. My father didn't even like electric typewriters. It's called a VDT, video display tube, CRT, cathode ray tube. Many names for it. Some names we make up when it glitches on us or eats a story we can't get back. We've worked a long time on. Or if it just refuses to continue speaking the language that we have been taught to speak to it. Goes into unknown tongues sometimes. But on the whole, it's pretty nice. In a sense, this has become the heart of the newsroom, the heart of newspaper. It's a big change. Not all newspaper men, especially old-time newspaper men and women, like it. But on the whole, it's pretty smart, pretty quick. It'll do a lot of things. If you want to write into it, do this. If you want to know what's going on around the world, let's see, let's type world in this little space and call up. Okay, we got a directory. Associated Press stories. Cuba, Soviet Union, Irish, China. Let's see what's going on in China. Request edit, you get the story up on your screen. Agriculture Secretary's gone to China to promote grain sales. Well, that's fairly interesting. Let's see what's going on in the nation. Type nation in. We've got all these stories around drug, weather, Boeing, elderly, Navy story, bodies, another weather story, police. Here's one, Nixon. Let's call up this story. See what Mr. Nixon's up to. Well, it's not actually him, it's his niece. Says Richard Nixon's niece is thinking about running for Congress and says she's not worried about being tainted by her uncle's downfall in Watergate. That's more interesting. Fact is that all our information more or less starts and stops with this electronic machinery. Newspapering is thought of not as an electronic medium, but in a sense it is, even though it's print when it comes out. It's the way it used to be. All the stories we get from around the country, and around the world, our editors see in this machine for the first time. The information that we originate at the newspaper, we put in through this machine. Reporters sit down and type it into it. Machinery takes over and does something magic, and it comes out the other end. In a sense, though, that has to do with style, production, logistics. And to my mind, the true heart of newspapering is still the substance. What do you put in the newspaper? In this medium, at least, I hope the message is still the message. It's not the medium. Speaking to that point, our day, I guess, more or less starts in this office also with our morning editorial meeting. 7:30, we gather, myself, 4 or 5 editors in here. The wire service editors will have gone through their tubes, see what stories are available from across the country, around the world, and also what pictures, photographs, which we get in on an electronic magic machine on some kind of silver-coated paper that I don't understand, pictures from around the world. The local editors come in, they will have assigned reporters to stories, photographers to photographs, hopefully. I think local news and pictures are the heart of a local newspaper, and that's what we really try to concentrate on. We'll invite reporters into the editorial meeting, tell us how their story's coming along or maybe not coming along. Get their ideas, we'll give them ours. Then we run them out, and the editors hash it over pretty good. We decide what we think is our best stuff and how to play it. With page 1, page 2, which is kind of a soft news, human interest feature page. Some of the stuff we decided to throw out. Maybe we'll hold on to a local story because the reporter hasn't been able to get in touch with somebody. The other side, maybe. We think we have to state both sides. We try to be fair on that. So we'll hold up the story on that point, or maybe we don't think he's been complete enough, that the reporter's talked to enough people, gotten the information. Maybe we need to check further with sources. If it's a touchy subject, something that could have legal ramifications or possibly be unfair to someone, we want to make sure it's as accurate as we can make it. After we hash it over, we come up with a rough plan. We know pretty well what we're going to do. I say rough plan. Some days at deadline, which is noon, we're still exactly precisely with that plan we came up with at 7:30 or 8 in the morning. But most days, the more usual thing is for you never know what's going to happen in the news business, so we try to stay flexible right up to deadline. We're willing to make changes as late as we have to and still get the paper out reasonably on time. So when we have that plan, the editors go back to their little machines through the rest of the newsroom, and if you'll come with me, I'll show you that, and we'll try to see what happens in the next step of this fairly intricate process. This is Carl Harrison, managing editor. He rules over the newsroom. Carl, what goes on out here?
A lot, and most of the time it's pretty hectic. We have charge out here of the overall news operation of the Sun, which is inclusive of local news, national news, state news, the living or family sections, and the sports section. We have local news reporters, local editors, and then we have editors who perform duties only pertaining to national news affairs that come across our wires.
It seems awful quiet out here. It's moving up on 11:30 deadline time, about 40 minutes from deadline time, and I'd always heard that there was a lot of noise and clattering and kind of thing. What's going on? It's too quiet out here.
Well, that was pre-technology, the time you refer to. VDTs have chased out most of the noise of the newsroom. Most of the noise now is grunts and groans of people who are frustrated by the machinery on occasion. This particular day, we are on pins and needles because we're afraid our computer system and our video display terminals are not going to be with us down the stretch. We try to be a regional newspaper. Sometimes the people in Paducah, the city of Paducah, don't understand that, and sometimes the people in our region feel that we're too much a Paducah newspaper, that we pay too much attention to the city. We try to mix that, we try to balance it, because we do have a great number of readers within and without the city. We think that local people, local names, and local events are still of prime interest to local people. And because of that, we put special emphasis on features, lighter news, and sometimes even good news. Believe it or not, we like to put that on the front page. We like to put good news stories about good people.
This is Bill Bartleman. one of our most hard-bitten and persistent reporters. He's been in the newspaper business for some years, and he recently even wrote a column about the new machinery in the newsroom. Bill?
Well, it's nothing but a big it. I think I'd rather, in one way, I'd rather go back to the old days where we have some excitement in the newsroom, but you know, you can hear now that there's very little noise here. You know, the old, you know, it's kind of a, gets your blood when you see an old, it gets your blood flowing when you see an old movie on TV that they have the old ticker tapes and the people running around with copy in their hands and yelling for copy boy and really pushing for a deadline. But in here, we might as well work in an insurance office or a bank. Things are so quiet.
Some people would say that'd be a good thing.
Well, not if you know, I haven't been in this business all that many years, only 10 years, and I know a big difference in just that short a period of time. I wouldn't, if I'd been in the business 20 or 30 years, I'd probably be pulling my hair out. It'd just be hard to accept the way things have changed.
This is Steve Wingfield. He was recently demoted from reporter to editor. He'd been pushing a long time for a kind of entertainment magazine or something. I'm still not sure exactly what it is, but we just said, okay, you're in charge of it, do it. We had, this is it, one of the issues, Sun Glow, a title we had some contention over, and well, that's the title. Steve, what is it exactly that you're the editor of?
It's a leisure-oriented supplement to the newspaper. We include TV and just about anything else that people do when they're not working. I want it to be a little looser, maybe would be the term, than what we usually have in the newspaper. A little more fun-loving, not as gray, let's put it that way. A little less sober, maybe.
Gee, I didn't know we were that bad. This is Bill Thompson. He's the foreman of the composing room. And the way we compose has changed a little bit, I believe. How long have you been here, Bill?
About 37 years, Jack.
Anything changed in here since then?
Well, from start to finish, all of it's changed. It's gone from the old hot metal era down through various tape operations and now to an extremely fast computer operation.
The way it used to be. I remember coming in here as a kid, and it was noisy, dirty, hot metal, and ink all over the place. What's this?
This is a hot metal page. Every line was set individually, and every character had to be dropped individually. It came out upside down and backwards. It took new people, new apprentices. They thought they'd never be able to learn to read type, always upside down and backwards. But there was a real interesting phase of the typesetting. The history of it went back through this era, and it took, much longer. It would take a good operator about an hour to produce one good clean column of type. And now, of course, we can get out columns of type in a matter of seconds off the computer. We take it out, develop it, process it, cut it out, and then we make up. We still refer to it as makeup, but it's now the new rule is paste up. We just paste it up instead of make it up.
Essentially what you've got here is all been spit out by electronic machinery, one way or another, hasn't it?
Jack, that comes out, the news face, straight matter we call it, comes out about 650 lines a minute.
As you can probably see, we have now left that clean composing room. There is one part of the newspaper left. It's ink all over the place and got big noisy machinery, and the man that is in charge of that part of it down here is Charlie Hicks. He's a press room foreman. He's been here about 30 years. Charlie, has this changed any?
Oh, quite a bit, Jack. From the day of the old hot metal down to this, now it's chemicals and cameras.
You have to get these 800-pound rolls of paper on here. You got to get the ink mixed right, and you got to keep a big piece of machinery running right. What do you have to look out for then?
Well, just all little odds and ends, and try to chink up the cracks. And from time past, you just got to kind of use a broad mind, figure out day to day what you're going to have to do to meet tomorrow.
What about all that ink people talk about, including me and my wife talking about rubbing off on your hands and the table?
Well, Jack, I tell you what, it's a touchy subject, but we haven't run up on anybody that knows really what to do. Because you take carbon black and oil, a little wax and a little varnish, We all know that oil don't drive very fast.
Looks like he's about got that last page in down there. We ready to go?
We're ready to go. Let her go, Don.
How's it make you feel when you know you got the last day going there and she's starting up again? That
makes you feel real well. When everything's running good, when you run your daily paper off, and you hear them shut down the press, you say, well, I got a little grace.
Well, that's about it. That's how we do it. Must say I'm a little bit amazed, more or less on a daily basis, that we usually do pretty much what we're trying to do, pretty much on time, by deadline. Amazes all of us sometimes. Haven't mentioned one part of the paper, advertising people. I guess partly because they are not part of the editorial process that starts and finishes with getting the paper out that I'm involved in, but the fact is that without the advertisers and without the advertising people who put the ads together, classified and display, there'd be no Paducah Sun. The subscription price you pay, the 20-cent newsstand price, actually pays very little the total cost of getting a newspaper out. So, I want to thank you for coming by. If you understood a little of it and enjoyed more than that, I'm going to see how the paper came out.
Mr. Edison? Mr. Edison! Mr. Edison! That's it. You're wearing a bell. And who the hell's this?
Tesla, sir. Nikola Tesla.
No. Your name. What's your name?
Nikola Tesla.
He's sent to replace Hobson. I thought Hobson left. He did. Who's that?
Nikola Tesla!
Mr. Edison! Mr. Edison, the junction box on Nassau Street has come loose. It is shooting sparks and scaring all the horses. Not again.
Have Mason shut down the entire block and find me someone who can patch that line.
You need a new engineer?
Of course I need a new ear. This thing doesn't work worth a damn.
No, wait, you don't understand.
Rutledge.
He's the engineer sent to replace Mr. Hobson. His name is Nikola Tesla.
Tesla? What the hell kind of name is that?
Perhaps you'd like a demonstration.
What, now?
Are you sure it's safe?
Absolutely. Mr. Sheriff, charge the coils. The Earth, by its very nature, possesses an enormous electrical potential, far greater than most people are even aware. Through this principle, I have finally broken the limitations of copper wire and developed a means of providing wide-scale electrical power to any point on the globe. You'll note the receiver positioned on the far hill. The lamp mounted on top is a common electric light, yet the unit is free from any conventional source of power. Only with the energy transmitted through the tower will a sufficient charge be received to close the circuit and activate the lamp.
Coil's locked at 85.
Divert all condensers to the central array.
Relays are holding, but I don't know how long.
Long enough. Here, transmit on my mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark! smoking a cigar? But the transmitter works! You saw that yourself.
I saw that you couldn't control it.
These things take time.
What, another 10 years?
If that's what it takes. How do we stand on repairs? No.
Nicola, be reasonable.
I have reason in abundance.
And a smaller group of investors each month. Are there any more of New York's finest you could damn near electrocute?
No one was in danger of electrocution. The explosion would have killed us all long before that.
With such a selling point, it's no wonder you have to start financing these little ventures on your own.
By selling you the patents to my more practical endeavors.
Just one.
Which one?
The teleautomaton.
What do you call it again? An automaton?
A teleautomaton.
I thought he said it was a robot.
He did.
In a sense.
Looks more like a boat to me.
It is a boat!
Named automaton?
No, it doesn't have a name.
A boat with no name? Let's call her Doris.
It's called a teleautomaton.
But you said it's a robot. Doris is a robot? That's what I heard.
A toast to Doris, the robot boat.
To Doris, the robot boat.
Nicola, that was years ago. With a boat named Doris, controlled from shore by a wireless receiver. Who would have dreamt such things were possible?
The demonstration wasn't clear.
It was too much at once. They didn't understand.
I gave them pamphlets.
Times have changed. This is the 20th century. People are beginning to accept such things.
This discussion is pointless. All the constructs were dismantled long ago, and the only prototype lost in a warehouse fire.
But you still have the schematics. With those and the patents, my staff could easily take this project to completion.
And let someone else, even you, take credit for my work.
Nicola,
It's happened before. I won't allow it again.
You're making too much of this.
Am I? How many years did Edison try to discredit my work with alternating current? New York wouldn't carry a fraction of the power it does today if it weren't for my designs. Do people credit me with bringing electricity into their homes? Or do they think of George Westinghouse, the man who owns my patent? There's that Italian fellow, Marconi. You've probably heard of his recent advancements with his so-called radio. A simple device, really. It uses 17 of my patents. And let's not forget Wilhelm Röntgen, whose work with X-ray photography will no doubt earn a Nobel Prize. And to think he said my photos were a result of harsh light. Which is why, though I appreciate your offer, I regret to inform you that the teleautomaton is not now, nor will it ever be up for sale. So, could I interest you in something else?
Can I assume it's some type of weapon?
If you must. Stand by. Fire. Disengage. Very palpable hit. You've been practicing.
This is incredible.
Yes, I know. Miss Scarlett, your plant seems to have wilted. Would you mind fetching another?
This is a death ray.
Disintegrator ray. That sounds so final.
Either way, what man wouldn't sell his soul to control such a device?
Is that an offer?
Sadly, I'm running a bit short.
Put that away. You'll shoot a hole in the wall.
Don't try me, Nicola. There's too much at stake.
It's only a plant.
If you don't mind.
It's only a plant.
I know.
Enough! For 20 years, I've watched you make countless innovations only to see them pushed aside in your pursuit of some ludicrous dream. What more have you kept locked away while your talents are wasted on this monstrous creation?
Quite a bit.
Then why should I struggle with mediocre success, achievements anyone could accomplish, when all I needed to make a name for myself has been waiting, lying abandoned on your shelf for years?
Because not everything is kept in storage.
You knew
that the automaton had been stolen, the warehouse deliberately burned. I had my suspicions. But only when you became interested in acquiring the original designs did I begin to understand. Without this decoder, the automaton could never work again. And you needed more than the patents to rebuild this one vital circuit. Call it a force field. Quite resilient.
You'll never get away with this. It's your word against mine. Then why should I struggle with mediocre success, with mediocre success, with mediocre success?
Your words speak for themselves. Mr. Sheriff, call the police.
Mr. Tesla!
Oh, look. Company. This is your last chance, Nicola.
Beg pardon?
The schematics and the circuit.
50,000, no disintegrator, final offer.
I'm not buying them, I'm extorting them. I'm not buying them, I'm extorting them.
You're really digging a hole here.
Is she that bad a secretary?
How's your dictation?
This is just business. You understand?
Just when you need it the most. Dance, little man. You're not smoldering. Why aren't you smoldering? I like it when they smolder. Miss Garrett, sorry about that disintegrator thing. Take a half day next Thursday.
Doesn't everyone?
Go away, I'm tired.
Not without the schematics.
Then without this,
You wouldn't dare.
I can build another. Could you?
I won't have to.
And that is?
A telegram for you. I met the courier on my way in. He said it was most urgent. Must have slipped my mind.
You're bluffing.
It's from a town called Smiljan in a country I couldn't pretend to pronounce. Your family, I presume.
Give it to me.
I pray nothing tragic has happened. You must worry, being so far from home.
Very well.
It's a trick! Cables from your family are marked from Volslav.
Dear Lord! Oh no!
Step away from there, Nicola.
I'm afraid I don't have time. It started.
What was that?
The first in a series of sonic vibrations generated by an oscillator deep beneath the lab.
To what end?
The generator waves travel out through the ground, carried by their strength down to the core of the earth. With each pulse comes an increase in the strength of those waves, building resonant vibrations on a scale which will ultimately shatter the whole of creation.
Then turn it off.
I can't! Your shot managed to cripple the only controls.
How long do we have?
It's difficult to say, never having done this before. But I wouldn't think we have more than, say, 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
For complete annihilation. But with the earthquakes and volcanoes, the tidal waves and flooding, the hurricanes and tornadoes, life as we know it shouldn't last 9 days.
9 days?
Have I mentioned the excruciating high-pitched whine?
Enough!
Oh!
Since none of you want to accept the situation, I seem to be left with only one choice. As soon as I get all the schematics and circuits I need, you and this laboratory with you are going to meet with an unfortunate accident. One involving a great deal of kerosene and a well-placed torch. I wouldn't expect any of you to survive, but just to be sure.
Let's not have any of that. I'd like to get some sleep.
You see, it might take 3 weeks to destroy the world. And 9 days to exterminate all life. But it only takes 30 seconds to break the windows at Chief McCarthy's house halfway down the road. Mr. Sheriff, charge the coils.
The relays are holding, but I don't know how long. It was only a plant.
Mr. Sheriff, call the police.
Mr. Sure, you didn't take your medicine.
I'll get to it.
It's been a busy day. You need your rest.
I've had worse.
In other news, funeral services for inventor Nikola Tesla drew a crowd of over 2,000 earlier today in New York City.
You thought a lot of him, didn't you?
He was an exceptional man. I wish things had been different.
Though considered a pioneer in electrical engineering, Tesla was often criticized for his claims of developing wireless energy transmitters, force field generators, and even a death ray.
Disintegrator ray.
Lawyers for his estate have found no records to support such claims, leaving the world to wonder if Tesla had more up his sleeve than met the eye.
Let them wonder for a few more years at least.
Beg pardon?
It was too much at once. All the things I've seen. Some legacies must wait for others more deserving.
On the European front, Allied forces continue the effort to liberate France from Axis control.
In time, the name Tesla will finally earn its due.
And that will be...
When it's blue.
The largest electrical blackout in 30 years continues to affect much of New York City tonight, and there's no word yet on when services are expected to be restored. However, attention has shifted to an equally alarming phenomenon which gripped the city shortly after dark, when 7 square miles of the greater metropolitan area became bathed in a mysterious blue glow. A connection with the current power crisis has yet to be determined, but sources have reported that the phenomenon does possess certain electromagnetic qualities. This has led many to believe that the source is of man-made origin, though who or what could accomplish such a feat is at this time unknown.